Amen. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to A Mother's Cry. We are here once again, myself, Reverend Cynthia Curtis, and Miss Deborah Hartzog, my co-guest, host, speaker, everything. She stays with me. I will not let her go. We are here today, and we have a great show for you. We have Miss Dallas Fowler, and she is running for office for the 10th District Council. She has worked in Mayor Garcetti's office as commissioner, and I am going to let her talk first today before I go into some ministry. But I'm going to let her talk about what she's done, where she's come from, how she got here, and as a woman, where she's going.
Well, greetings. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be here and share with you all today. Yes, I did. I've been serving on boards and commissions in the city of Los Angeles since 2006. I'm a third generation Angelino on my father's side. My dad, my grandmother, they went to Dorsey High School and LA High School. And I grew up in LA. I grew up in and around the 10th district. I've lived in the 10th at different points in my life, and I've been here consistently since 2012. But my family's home has been in our family since the 40s. So I've got a long track record of service to the district as well as the LA community at large. I've served originally, my first board service was under Antonio Villaraigosa on the Minority Business Opportunity Center, and I served on their procurement committee under Karen Blackwell was the executive director of that program. And it was a wonderful opportunity to help ensure that the city was doing outreach to our minority and women-owned contractors to get those opportunities, and small businesses, and breaking out contracts so smaller businesses can have those opportunities. Then under Mayor Eric Garcetti, it was an honor to serve as his commissioner on the status of women. I worked on human trafficking issues, actually working to get young women and girls and sometimes young boys off of the streets from being trafficked. And
let me slow you down because we talked about some of that. Yeah. I actually met her at the
Holman.
the 3FN at Holman. They were doing a foster care program and allowing people to come in who are interested in fostering or just mentoring or just coming in to help, who I've actually passed that information on to Miss Deborah and Miss Dorothy. Oh my goodness. Why is Deborah in my head? I got to get that out. Whoever that lady is, I need to meet you. It was prophesied that I would meet a Deborah, and I met, just right. I need you to show up. So there's something we have to do. But Miss Dorothy, and so now she's talking to them with the program, but we talked a little bit about, Figueroa Street here in Los Angeles. We talked about what you see when you come into the Los Angeles area and what's going on in certain areas. And now your district that you're running for, I looked it up. So it's a South Central.
Just a little. It really kind of starts at about 43rd Street. So you've got a little bit of Leimert Park, Baldwin Hills, Baldwin Village, and then you go further east to the Angeles Vista community. We've got a slither of Koreatown in the north. We've got a little bit of South Robertson in the west side, and Little Ethiopia, Fairfax. So it's a pretty broad-based district and diverse district. But when you talk about the trafficking issues, yes, of course, the Figueroa corridor, but also, even within our district, we have Western. And on Western, I've been seeing a number of activities that I know we've got work to do to bring our young people off the streets. And so I did that. I did that work part, and we partnered with Homeland Security. I was able to get almost, I would say, at least 5 people off the street that stayed and get them into safe houses and away from their abuser and their environment. And so it was truly rewarding work. I also hosted the city's first hackathon and technology conference for women and girls. And we also and then ultimately, the mayor said, it's time to get your feet wet in public safety. He's been a good friend and a mentor, and he moved me to the Board of Police Commissioners, their LAPD panel, which is permit panel. It's
ding, ding. That's something I want to talk to you a little bit about while we're here.
So I'll tell people what it does, because it's a quasi-judicial panel that the decisions you make there about the police permit for businesses can only be taken up or appealed through the LA Superior Courts. And so,
when you say 43rd, does that stem in part of Inglewood at all?
No. So Inglewood is not a district. No,
okay.
This is the
city
city of Los Angeles. No, you can't get me into the Inglewood activities. This is the city of Los Angeles.
Lord help them.
Yes. And so the Police Permit Review Board is something that we would issue or revoke permits from businesses that were either operating in code to the LA Municipal Code, which actually, I actually got a lot of opportunity to learn more about the LA Municipal Code.
So watch this
as well.
2 things: food trucks, food carts. I see them popping up everywhere down here. Okay, I'm from Orange County. They can't do that. I'm trying to find out what your laws and your rules are. I mean, they don't have running water. I don't see refrigeration. They just pitch a cart and they're out there serving food in the evenings. They wait till the evenings when people are closing. What can they do? What can't they do? Are they business licensed? What are we doing with them?
So our vendors have been approved. Street vendors have been approved recently in the city. That's a vote that I won't be able to participate in. That's already taken place.
Okay.
They are able to now sell. You see people selling fruits, or you see people doing like the downtown hot dogs where they've got the grill, or they're doing tacos.
Jesus truck. Jesus hot dogs. You guys know Jesus don't sell hot dogs, but it's Jesus. So
no, it's Jesus's hot dogs, and he's likely named after Jesus.
I took a picture of it and I vlogged it. I said, "You guys, Jesus is selling hot dogs."
Okay,
but I'm gonna be good today.
So a lot of times, particularly if you look at the commercial market in terms of getting space to open your own restaurant, a lot of times a food truck is your early enclave into being able to get enough capital to be able to get a restaurant. Maybe later in my life, that may be in my future at some point in time. I do love to cook, and it's a great legacy to do, and I'm really proud to see some of the newer stores and restaurants that are starting to come up here in the Leimert Park area and still have the same feel of the surrounding community, and I do support that. And so small business empowerment is a big part of my platform, and I really want to make sure that we're creating a district guide of all of the businesses in the community for people to know, to support, so that we're continuing to recycle the dollar within the district, as well as ensure that our small businesses have access to grants for facade improvements, so we can get our storefronts looking nice and clean, and also make sure that when people come to LA, that when they go and stay at someone's home in an Airbnb, they have this guide of restaurants and stores and shops that aren't necessarily a part of the main, central tourist location, so they can get the real feel of LA. And I want our district is very talented.
That's important because I know a lot of the food and wine books, they give listing of events in different restaurants, the bistros and things. I'm from Orange County, so we have that. I'm just saying we have that, and so I've noticed there's a lot of events happening down here in LA, and there's a lot of places. But finding it, like you were saying, the guide, I don't really see a guide that lets me know where I can find where the rooftop restaurants are, and all the different little intricate bistros, and like you have the coffee house over here. I would have never known that it was just one street over had I not went to go see Miss Morrison, Barbara Morrison, who is awesome. If you guys don't know who she is, she does a lot of outreach and community work. She sings jazz beautifully. I mean, has a voice of an angel, and she's just the most humble person. She just, when she comes off the stage, she just says, "What do you need, baby?" Well, and I said, I need to be able to sing like that.
She is an LA icon, and the World Stage Theater is fantastic. I've seen other friends and colleagues perform there, and she really is a walking history tour in terms of music and jazz and the influence here in LA,
and keeping the Black dollar alive.
She's in Leimert Park. Check her out, and please go by there. And then we have Hot and Cool that's there in the Leimert Park area. And I'm really proud to. Hot and Cool is a new restaurant and space where they have hot soups. They've got hot teas,
Really?
coffees, all kinds of coffees and teas that are fantastic.
Where's it located?
And then they've even got like vegan ice creams. They're right on Degnan. Yep, they're right in the Lamert Park Village, and so definitely worthy checking. I've already done a meet and greet there, so they are
so
fantastic.
let's talk about something. You mentioned Mayor Garcetti, okay,
Yes.
And so he's actually holding an event for women in about 2 weeks. We're scheduled to go
for the small business.
Right.
Yes.
So Miss Dorothy and I are going. I signed us up last month.
I should be there too.
So I was going to say, will you be there?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when we get there, we're going to look forward to seeing you there. But more importantly, I want to talk about your running. So now you're running District 10, which is currently being held by Herb Wesson, which is he has a very well-known presence in this area.
He's the council president of the city of Los Angeles.
And so now he's timed out.
He's termed out.
He's termed out. Thank you. He's termed out. Let me get the right term.
Yeah, he's out of time on the city council.
So this is to your benefit. Now, I did my little research on this. So now this seat has been held by African American presidents since 1963 when Tom Bradley
took
and
the
then
seat.
from Tom Bradley took that seat. And then David Cunningham took that seat.
Correct.
And then after David Cunningham, Nate Holden. Come on, let me get my list now.
Okay.
And then is it Martin Ludlow?
Briefly.
Okay, right. He briefly held it. And then currently it went to Herb Wesson. And so now what I noticed in doing my studies is there's been no African-American woman, no black African-American woman. And so I got so excited. I couldn't tell her I got so excited. So I had to keep it until today, you guys, because the presence of the black woman is on the move. We're on the rise, and we're doing some things. And I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
I can't ask you how old you are on here.
Yes, you can. I'm 38 years old. I'm the average age of women in Los Angeles. I
normally tell my age, but not on TV.
I never hide my age. I'm fine with it,
I say the same
because and it would be my complete honor to be the first woman to represent the 10th Council District. We've never had a woman represent this district.
Right.
We've only had 2 African American women actually serve on the city council in the history of LA. And when you think about the activism and the influence of black women in this district and in Los Angeles, Biddy Mason, I mean, there's so many wonderful, influential
Maxine Waters,
Karen Bass. I mean, I think that it is really important for us to not only have representation, because when you think of us in terms of a political party and in terms of the Democratic Party, and this being a Democratic stronghold, essentially, if you're talking about Los Angeles, there's only one member of the city council that's not within the Democratic Party. I think it's really important for us to ensure that we've been towing the line and helping everyone else get elected, and ensure that we do the work to make sure that we are actually represented.
Because I see all of those people who trailblazed before you. Now they're heading to what? They're heading Secretary of State. Then they went to Congress. And now, look, they're heading for the presidency. Look at Kamala Harris.
It's fantastic.
I met her. She came to my church. Maxine Waters comes to the church. But more importantly, Maxine Waters was trying to get to the KJLH Women's Expo event. And this young Latino gentleman was trying to drive. And I would say, no, hold. And he was looking at me like, for what? And I said, sir, we have a queen in our presence. And he said, what country is she from? I said, right here, the great US of A. I said, that is Miss Maxine Waters, your congresswoman. Right. And he was like, oh. And so then I stood there in front of his car, and then she was able to cross by her vehicle, and they were driving her in.
Oh,
and then she looked at me and she said, oh, you didn't have to do that. I said, but yes, I did. But of course I did. I had to.
That's right.
And so I said, one, he needed to know who she was. Because she's representing us. And we need to make sure that the millennials know who's out there. What are we doing? Black people, Black African American, whatever you're calling yourself today, African American, Black Americans. I know we're not going way back to the colored and all of that. But I think we need to solidify that too. And watch this. I heard that coming out in 2020 that they are redoing all of the demographics for how they're labeling.
The census.
Yes,
and
the census. Yes.
Yeah, so we actually, the California Democratic Party's state convention for 2020, because we moved up our primary to early March. So our state convention is actually taking place next weekend, where they're going to be doing the work to endorse the people that are running for statewide. Well, not statewide. We have some state senate and state assembly races that they're doing the endorsements for, and they're also having a presidential forum next weekend in Long Beach. From the November 15th through the 17th. You can come down to the Long Beach Convention Center and get a taste and meet candidates and hear from candidates, which is an awesome opportunity. But I think we are having a Black Women Meetup where we organize women, and we're going to be hearing from the census. So we're having a luncheon at the Outback Steakhouse in the Long Beach Pike.
We'll be there.
and it's a luncheon. The tickets are like $35. You get your lunch, and you get a Black Women Meetup pin, and you get the opportunity to hear from folks that are working with the census to understand how it's going to impact us and the work that we need to do to ensure that our communities are being counted.
That's right. And that we're being counted as part of those communities, looking at what's happening with gentrification and a lot of the change and who's staying, who's going, and hold on to your house. Do you sell? Do you take the big money? What's your take on what's happening with that?
I think, listen, I don't truly believe that there is this massive conspiracy to displace Black people. I think people are making decisions that are arbitrarily displacing people from this community. So when we look at the homeless crisis as it is, we went through a series of year after year after year of our city approving luxury developments, and then we have a lot of these luxury developments that are sitting vacant. Now, the city is taking action. There are a number of council members that have taken action to deal with the luxury vacancy or deal with the vacancies.
The prices are too high.
But we're not enforcing the affordability and the affordable units. And so we've got to ensure that our housing and community investment department has the resources it needs to really have an enforcement program to open up thousands of units across the city. And then where I come in is I think that we really need to be doing the work to treat this crisis like the crisis it is. Yes. I attended Florida A&M University, HBCU love.
There you
and
go.
I remember I've lived through a number of hurricanes down there. And when something really bad happened, maybe in the Jacksonville area, they pulled up cruise ships.
Yes, they
did.
They
got people off the streets.
Yes, they did.
And then they started to rebuild. That's the things that we need to be doing here in Los Angeles.
They did it in New Orleans.
We did it in New Orleans. We could be seeking federal support in terms of if it's naval ships, doing public-private partnerships with organizations like Carnival or Norwegian or whoever we have, that we can pull up some cruise ships, 2 to 3, and get 8,000 to 10,000 people off the streets right away so they can start getting the mental health services, all of the wraparound support services to prepare them, get them into the job training, and get them. And while we're developing the housing for them or finding the space for them, then we can get them into the space.
Now,
and I think that's really important.
And you said cruise ship. That would work too. I had some similar. We pitched in Orange County. There was a lot of vacant hotels. And so I said, you can put those people in the hotels because the elevators lock out. So if you have people that have mental health, or you have people that have drugs or alcoholism where they cannot be in control of themselves, you can put them on the floors with level where windows don't open and they can't come down unless they come down with a clinician. Now, what you've done is you've created more jobs. You've used a structure that was vacant.
That is correct.
And people are there. They're in that area. They're on that street. They were all, in that area. Downtown, there's a lot of vacant buildings that they can use. But watch this. They're seeing dollar signs. So it comes back to greed. Yes, greed. I'm going to talk about it. It's greed because I just saw something and I noticed it. The Crenshaw Plaza it had been kind of run down for years. I'm going to say years because I worked at LAX for 15 years driving down here, and it's never changed until now because of that stadium. And so now I just saw, and it was like Crenshaw, King Plaza. But I noticed something. There's a sign that was just posted. I took a picture, and luckily that phone died on me. Okay. But it says that they can come into that plaza, and they can treat anyone in that plaza as if they're on the street. How is that possible? It's private-owned property, unless the city is bought into that plaza. But it says that the police can come and govern that property as if they're on the street.
As if it's a public.
Exactly. As if it's a public domain. Which means they can ticket cars, which they shouldn't be able to do.
It's likely owned by the city is likely what it is. But okay. I think, look, there's a number of layers that really contribute to our homeless crisis. And I think just years of approving developments that and only increase surrounding rents. We've got to be a lot more responsible about the actual developments that we allow here to come in, particularly in the Crenshaw corridor. That, look, the average income is about $40,000 here. So if you come in and bring in 562 luxury units when the need is really for 562 affordable units.
Right.
We've got to find the mix, though, right? Because we got our residents in Baldwin Hills. We've got our residents here along the Obama Boulevard corridor, and they still need access to affordable housing. And so we've got to do a balance. So it can't just be 100% luxury. We probably really need it to be 30% luxury and 70% affordable, or a certain amount that's affordable, and then a certain amount that's really truly low income. And so we've got to find the mix. And I have a background in construction. I think the money, the city's spending upwards of $600,000 per unit to develop. That is astronomical.
Right.
And I express my dismay about this to other city officials, including the mayor. Listen, we could be building more sustainable, more greener, that's better for the environment, and cutting the cost of production down and the time that it takes to produce it just by building greener. And that's important.
So that is important. But watch this. So I don't understand. So if the powers that be that are already in office understand that same point you just made.
Well, maybe not. I don't think anybody on the council has a construction background.
Well, but they understand finances. And they understand that if you build a 900 unit, which is what most of them are, a 900 unit and a one bedroom is going for $2,300 and a two bedroom is going for $2,700 and you're only paying a person $13 an hour, you cannot afford to live there.
So the current minimum wage everywhere in the country, no one can afford to live anywhere on their own solely.
But watch this. In Orange County, we welcome the low income and watching the affordable housing. But LA, who has the most homeless of all, is refusing to give the affordable housing. They just passed a bill, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, that only allows houses of a certain time when they were built after a certain time period.
Right.
Okay, but
Prop 13.
Prop 13. But the other people that had their houses built since 1940s and 50s, they've raised the rents on those little, I'm not going to call them shacks, but those little houses to the same price as the people who have these big, beautiful, newer model homes. So I don't think that they should be allowed to charge the same rents for a house that was built in 1940 unless you have renovated it to look like 2018, 2019. I think that's something that the government, local government, that's something you might want to tackle.
That is probably something that's going to be dealt with at the state level because that was a ballot measure. And the only way to edit or amend another ballot measure is the people have to come back and vote on it. And so there have been things that have come on the ballot. We had Prop 10 in 2018. I think there's going to be some other propositions that are going to deal with that. And but you know what? I want to make sure that we talk about the levels of city government and what happens. So when we talk about city services, in all actuality, the city of LA has gone above and beyond what a normal city would do to deal with homeless. It is the county that is supposed to be dealing with homeless, providing mental health facilities, providing homeless housing, and we just haven't seen the turnout like we should from the county.
Okay, so this is kind of my area from the outreach side of it. What I'm seeing is that the same people are getting the funding that haven't done anything the last 30 years, and they're still getting the funding. So the funding is out there for us to help house the homeless, to pay for programs.
It is.
Catholic Charities, Salvation Army, United
Bond
Way.
measures. No, the people have voted. We said we want to fix this crisis. Here is $1.2 billion, City of LA, for Measure HHH to develop only 10,000 units. I can tell you, I probably could have developed 60,000 single-family homes with that money.
With that money, that's
okay?
right.
And so when I see what's happening, it makes it very hard. And I'll just tell you, I'll point to Jan Perry. Talk about a black woman who served in our city. The work she did in her own district puts the entire city to shame. She developed over 5,000 affordable units in the 9th district. She also created almost 1,000 beds or temp to permanent beds for the homeless in her community. She really did the work. This comes down to political will.
It does.
And what folks have to know is if you continue to elect the same people, you will get what you've always gotten.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And they say that's insanity, right? Doing the same thing,
probably
expecting
called insanity.
change, and not doing anything different to make the change.
You know, I didn't take this race lightly before I got in. I polled over 2,000 residents before I decided to run, and I've polled even more since. And overwhelmingly, individuals have said to me, we want new leadership. It is time.
We need it.
It is time. And so I am presenting myself as an applicant for the seat. I'm applying for the job. This is an application process. And, you know, it's really tough for black women to run. So this event that is coming up next weekend, the Black Women Meetup, Lunch and Learn, we're going to be talking about black women and the census, the impact of us on the census, and how we can do our part to ensure that our constituency is counted. But it's also going to talk about black women running for positions within the party and helping them to get more engaged in what that needs to do. But the funds go to a PAC, a political action committee that I started over 10 years ago to help progressives, women of color, to be able to either run for office or run for positions in the party. So it's called Helping Empowered Individuals Reach Success. AIRS is the
program.
The program for that. And so some of those monies will go to helping women run. It won't help me because I run the PAC and I can't legally do that. I won't be doing that. It won't help me.
But you can help
but I can help other women that are coming along.
I'm coming to LA. I'm coming to help you.
And that's what we've got to do, right? And so I think, listen, when you look at even a Kamala Harris, who is a California, U.S. Senator from California, the 5th largest economy in the world, even as a her raising money, it's exceptionally hard for black women to raise money. All of her white counterparts that are running for office, they have raised 10 times more money than she has. And this is a woman coming from the 5th largest economy in the world, okay? So we have to support, really make sure that we're doing the work to elevate black women that are running for office.
Black women and black men.
And black men. That's
right.
True. And the party as well. And so I've helped a number of black men and just people who really have a progressive agenda to ensure that our communities are getting the education that they need, are getting the access to resources that they need, and jobs.
Let's talk about jobs. There you go. You said it. There. I'm thinking. I'm on it. Let's talk about jobs.
Let's talk about jobs and the future of work in LA.
So let me throw this point out there because I talked to a lady the other day, and she was saying that she's been in county position for years, and a number of the black African American members are ready to retire, but they don't want to retire because they're not rehiring black people. I was listening to Dominique DePrima yesterday. Same thing. A lady called in. She says, it's time for us to leave, but we don't want to go because we're not being rehired. They want to keep the black presence on the job. How is it that it was, I believe they said it was 85% was African American, and now it's switched to almost 80% is Latino because of them requiring the bilingual status. How are we going to secure
for county
jobs for African Americans if they don't have a second language?
So this is a question for the county. I am running for the
Okay,
city.
you're right.
So I want you to hold this question when you interview some of the candidates that are running for county supervisor.
Yes, I will.
Because that is something that they are going to have to tackle. But I would say, in short answer, we really have to do the work to ensure that there are internships, apprenticeships, ability for more of our young people to have access. So when we talk about the future of work, automation is coming. Automation is taking a lot of jobs.
That's right.
And the people who will be impacted most is the African American community. But when we talk about specifically overall for all communities, seniors and our young people are going to be impacted the most by automation. So I don't know what your first job was in high school or whenever you started to work, but my first job in high school was McDonald's. Those are my first job. I worked retail in college.
So they can't take me away.
Well, I didn't. I did a little modeling too, but I steered back over to school
Right.
and everything. But those jobs are not going to be there like they were.
Right.
And so we have to ensure that our young people at the high school level are getting the apprenticeship training. My grandmother had a beauty shop in Leimert Park for over 30 years. I learned the trade of being able to do hair. So I was always able to do my own hair. And as a result, when I got away to college, I did hair in school. And so that was something a skill that could not be taken away, and that I could market it and I could make money and support myself.
Right there. A skill. Let me put this out here. As long as we have, I don't know how old Miss Dorothy is,
73.
but for 73.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to tell it. She's 73. I'll be 49 in 3 weeks.
Woo!
So all of you who want to participate in my birthday, original Gucci, Prada, candy. Jimmy Choo. No, I'm just.
I'm gonna find you some LA designers.
There you go. I'm not mad at any of Michael Kors. You guys know I need to meet him. Really, I own enough of his stuff that I should own stock.
You should.
But what I was going to say is that when I was coming up, my father and my mother, they taught us how to do everything. My father was a mechanic. He taught me how to work on cars. He said, "You want new tires?" He said, "You do your own wheel alignment." I was like, "What?" He said, "Yes, you do your own wheel alignment." And so I picked up my tires, the ones I wanted, and then, we rolled them back over there. But he said, more importantly, he said, "Don't marry a man that can't work with his hands." And I was like, "Well, what are you saying, Dad?" And he said, "If you marry somebody that can't fix anything, you're always going to be spending money." And so my father began to teach me how to do things. And so since I was 8, I've done my own hair. I learned how to do hair. I learned how to do nails. And I just prayed. I said, "God, show me how to cut out the middleman so I don't have to pay anybody or ask anybody for anything." And God would begin to whisper, "Okay, do this, do that," on different things. And I learned how to do things that I never would have known how to do.
I love that.
But we have to
my
teach
dad,
our children.
My dad worked for General Motors. He worked on the line here, Southgate plant, the plant in Van Nuys. Automation. He took me through the tour of the factories often as a little girl, and he said, "You see that machine? In a minute, they're going to have 5 of those machines, and 50 of these people aren't going to have their jobs anymore." And so I understand the devastation that happens to our communities when my dad had to go and leave for a little while and go live in Ohio and Texas and work at the plants to be able to continue to take care of his family. And he ultimately came back and retired. He's passed away now, but to be able to have that is true, to be able to have a skill or a trade. There are so many wonderful skills and trades
That's right.
in LA and apprenticeship programs that can get our kids, when they're coming out of high school, a lot of these kids are not going straight to college,
right.
or even when we do come into the community college program, they need jobs right away so that they can be sustaining themselves. We have 20,000 foster youth in our LAUSD schools. Okay, they are terming out, they're aging out of the system, and a lot of times they don't have their vital life documents to make sure that they can get the job that they need or the job training. And a place to stay.
And that's key right there, because I've been in talks. One of the gentlemen who was supposed to come on the show today with us, LA Small Business Commissioner, Mr. Williams, was supposed to come on the show with us today and talk about business, because we are trying to create an entrepreneur academy. I have pitched this to some of the powers that be, as well as Vernon Slauson Economic Development Corporation.
Wonderful.
And so, as well as Los Angeles Southwest City College.
Yes.
And so what I want is a program that we can catch 11th and 12th graders, mentor them into their what we call fifth year education, which is first year of college. And so because we know that if we don't catch them at 11th grade, then they're not really preparing for the 12th grade to know. By 12th grade, they should know where they're going to college. 11th grade, they should be sending out letters and they should be talking to those colleges.
I would say catch them at 7th and 8th grade.
Bless your heart.
Because they need to go in. Listen, I've worked with
Yes.
programs like MOST, which is mentoring our students through experience. It's a mentor program for 7th and 8th grade girls. I helped to put their program in at Samuel Gompers, and I think it's still there today. But I think that it's really important to catch young people that's a very pivotal time where they're still a little moldable, and then they understand the mindset that they have to get to where they want to go going into high school.
And that's
so that
good.
their freshman year grades, their sophomore and junior year grades. Because see, if I
Let's
catch you at
jump out
junior
at
year,
freshman,
see,
right.
colleges are looking at sophomore and
Right.
junior year grades. So if I don't catch you at the 8th grade and let you know that you got to mean business when you get into the 9th grade, because
That's
they're
true.
going to be looking at they're creating trajectory for
Right.
you.
They are.
And
They're forecasting on
They're
it.
forecasting whether or not you're going to be here.
That's right.
Do I need to have a prison cell for you, or do I need to have an apartment for you?
And you know what? And I'm gonna speak to that because I looked at something that they do, and they've been doing it for years. But they ask you when you fill out the forms for your children, what was the highest level of education your
right.
parents went? Did they go to college? You know, did they stop at 12th grade? Did they complete their masters, their BAs, their PhDs? What did they do? And watch this. When you put on there, one parent only went through high school and the other parent first year college. Now they label you, but they only guide you to a certain amount of education and jobs. They actually have a guide that say you will only amount to this if your parents never completed college. And I was like, wow, and so then the teaching rubric changes for what those students get in high school. And so I would think that also this program that we're looking at, if we could bring back some of those parents who are interested in going to school to continue their education, to show their children that, you know what, just because I stopped here does not mean that you can only go this far. And
You're
don't
right.
allow them to label you as that. But more importantly, mom would like to come back and go to school.
Shout out to Dr. George McKenna, because he has been on the school board and he has been doing the work to stop that, to give every student the opportunity to rise and succeed.
That's right.
And be a success. And I think we have to, there's a number of things in terms of being miseducated in our communities about where math comes from, where written language comes from. And if we start to understand that math and sciences came out of Africa, this
Right.
is something that your people
That's right.
did very well,
right.
very masterfully. You have a different perspective in terms of how you're going to approach your thought process in math. If you come in saying, oh, I can do this, my family's been doing, my people have been doing this for years, you have a completely different perspective on how
That's right.
you are going to be successful in this. And that takes the defeatism out
Right
away,
and,
right?
And it stops the labeling. But more importantly, you just caused me to remember something. So when you said, what was your first job?
What was your first job?
I was doing the modeling thing, but I had taken every business class at my high school that there was. And then I started taking business and computer classes at Cal Poly University when I was still in high school. And so at that point, they said, well, there's really nothing else for you. You topped out. So I went into ROP while I was still in high school, and I took banking and finance. And I started working for a bank that is no longer here, First Interstate Bank, which I believe
First
was bought
Interstate,
out by Bank of America. But I was bonded. I was hired immediately any place I went after that because they knew my background was math and accounting and finance. There was nothing you could throw numbers at me and I could throw them right back at you.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned banking because that's another critical thing that's coming. Listen, the city of LA is the state of California. The governor signed a bill to enact public banking in the state of California. So now the city of LA is taking this on. They're taking this up. and they're going to be doing the work. We are going to be doing the work to enact a public bank. Okay. Now, this can go one or two ways. This can be really, really great and cover a lot of our issues in terms of equity and access to capital, equity and access to lending. All of those things can really be alleviated by some of this. But it also could go really, really bad, really, really fast, and somebody could go to jail. I just got to be honest with that. I think if there's structure, I have a background. I've worked in financial services as well, and I've worked for it was the 5th largest bank in the nation at the time, and I worked to implement their national supplier diversity program. So you had to know about every single line of business in the bank. You had compliance, got to national safety, really show the business with women. But it's really something that's coming down the pike that's really pivotal, and we've got to make sure that we are paying attention to this.
Yes, we do.
And that we have people that aren't just from executives from Wells Fargo or entities that have not been historically serving our communities properly. We got to have the people from organizations and institutions that weren't doing exotic lending, that were doing the work to ensure that if people were ready to have a home loan, they got it. And that's the folks that we need to be trying to work with. And so that's a big piece, too, that's coming up.
And so with that, banking, finance, liquidity, small business, what is LA looking at? I know what they're doing over at Vernon Slauson, and it's a great job that they're doing. But who else? Who else is doing this? Mayor Garcetti's office is starting to get in touch with this thing, and we're moving forward. Black women in business and you know, this whole women in business thing.
Well, there have been, I mean, I look at Grid 110, I look at, even in South LA, the program that Nipsey Hussle was putting together, the Vector 90 programming, all of those business incubators matter, you know, and it's just making sure that we are exposing young people. Some young people naturally are inclined to entrepreneurship.
That's right.
And we have to be taking that information once they do their testing, their career aptitude testing, and ensuring that we are giving them those resources. And so doing after-school programming is something that is also a part of my platform. You know, even though we do partnerships with LAUSD at the city level, but I think it's really important. Dorsey High School is in the district. I implemented the ACE Mentor program there. It's still there to this day. Been there over 10 years. Architecture, construction, and engineering. Architecture, construction, and engineering program that really helps young people understand those career opportunities. We have to do more of those programmings in our high schools within the district, and that's something that I'm committed to.
Okay, so time is running, time has moved on, but it's such good information. Miss Shirley, I know you're watching. Please don't be mad at me today because I have not done a sermon, but I believe this is information that we need to hear about what's going on in our community. The fact that we have an African-American woman, a Black African-American woman running in this district, District 10. I think that's awesome. I think we need to celebrate that. We need to stand behind her. We need to support her in her run. So you're running. What is your number one goal that you're running for with this? What do you foresee with District 10? What is it that you want to change, fix, or continue?
My top 3 priorities are, of course, treating this homeless crisis like the crisis it is, doing the work to get our people off of the streets right away. If you look at who's on the streets most, it's predominantly Black individuals and people that look like us. And so it's really important to do that work, but not just for them, but for everyone, so that we have a clean, safe, environmentally sound city. The other piece is doing the work to ensure that we have affordable housing opportunities and making the commitment to develop or ensure, open up at least 5,000 new units available for affordable units available for folks in our district. Also going into, we didn't get to talk about climate or the environment, but ensuring that we have higher green building standards within our city, but looking at the food waste that really contributes to our carbon footprint and doing the work to have a sound, sustainable food waste program and that we're responsibly taking care of our trash. And so that sanitation is going to be another big piece and area of concern for me. But jobs, the future of work, how our seniors are going to be impacted and ensuring that they have enough training programs to kind of get them prepared for the new careers and doing the work.
And senior housing.
And being yes, and senior housing. When I talk about housing, I'm talking about housing for everyone. But but when we talk about bringing more jobs to the district, we have an area that that could be wonderful for businesses and business opportunities along the Jefferson corridor, along Obama, along Pico and Venice, and we've got to do the work to be an ambassador to other companies and helping the small business incubation to get companies ready. And that's a lot of the work that I've done. In my own company, I've had my own company for over 10 years. I've been doing not only digital print media consulting, but working with small to mid-sized firms. When I left the bank that I was at, I try not to. I left the bank. I worked for a very big bank. I worked for a very big bank, and I worked for the largest general contractor in the world, and I was very well trained in both areas. But when I left specifically to help small to mid-sized firms learn how to do business with larger companies and get the contracts with larger companies so that they could thrive and hire more people from their community. And that's what happens. When we have a strong small business community that is linked, we have a small we have a strong, we have the political will. We have somebody that's representing us with the will to do the development and do it sustainably, helping the environment as well as lower the cost so that we can produce more with the money that we have. That's one thing about Black women. We know how to do a lot with a little.
Yes, we do.
It's magic.
It is magic. You know, we have fed those men with whatever was left in our refrigerators. We fed our children. We fed the neighborhood with whatever we had. I mean, women have brown bagged it to neighbors and make sure that their children had food, you know. And so I had an aunt, my grandmother, my mother. They were always, if you didn't have a place to stay, they had a sofa, they had a bed, they had whatever they had, it was open to you. If you were hungry, you could come there and know you're going to get some good fried chicken. I'm sorry, Dr. Rutherford, that fried chicken is inevitable. It was holy fried chicken. But it was anointed. There you go. It was anointed fried chicken. And just knowing that the Black family has always been about us working together and unity. And now we're community trying to come back to that same unity that we once had. Right. And I think the way to doing that is to make sure that we support our candidates that are running. That's right. We're going to support everyone, but to more importantly, just to support our candidates who have not had the support, even within their own environment, they're not getting that same support. And so when I met Ms. Fowler, I knew she had to come on the show today. We are running out of time already. And so
I have been blessed by you and the show, and I look forward to tuning in every Thursday with you all.
Tune in and come back. I'm going to invite you to come back.
I will always come back, and I'll help you get some more folks on.
I will talk more, though, about the Bible and business. You already know. I'm going to give you the scripture I was supposed to use. Romans chapter 13 talks about letting us obey the laws of our land, our government, respecting the powers of authority that are over us. I did do a sermon, Miss Shirley. Yes, I did. And we'll talk about that next time. I'm going to invite Miss Fowler back here to the show. Before, what's the date that you're running? So your election date.
If you're absentee ballot, if you receive an absentee ballot, those ballots will drop February 1st. But we have new voting system coming. We have voting centers now, so you won't necessarily be voting in the same place. So make sure you look out for your new polling place. But the voting centers are going to open February 22nd. So you'll have 10 full days to vote ahead of the actual voting date. And our voting date, our final election day is Tuesday, March 3rd.
Okay, so Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. All of you get out there in District 10, vote for Miss Dallas Fowler. She's your representative.
Thank you.
You've heard her here first on this show, A Mother's Cry, in honor of Miss Shirley Knight Harris. We want to thank you. We want to thank Morris Media for keeping us on and bringing us back every week. And Miss Dorothy, I want to thank you for joining me this week. And we look forward to doing this again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.